welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Terrence Oglesby here with me. I have Tyler Hansbrough here with me, and we are going to be recapping what ended up being a really entertaining weekend in the world of college basketball. We got an eye here on the end of the Memphis and North Texas game. Memphis is currently up 56-55 in what looks like a dogfight in their second game in the American Athletic Conference this year. Wild day in college basketball today. UConn came back from 13 down to beat Providence. Kansas put together what was maybe their best road performance ever in the Big 12, and there's a reason why I say that. We'll talk about it in a second. We're also going to talk North Carolina's win over Notre Dame and the importance of Elliot Cadeau, Tyler. Elliot Cadeau making a game-winning 4-point play, as well as Alabama, and whether or not Alabama and Kentucky can be considered top 5 teams in college basketball at this point in the season. But before we get into that, we got to dive into the Big Ten here, folks. Purdue with a big win, Illinois with a big road win, Oregon bounces back with a win over Maryland, but we're going to start in the Palestra of all places, as Indiana goes and takes on Penn State. 77-71 win. Oumar Ballo had 25 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. T.O., and he did it without Malik Reneau. The 2 games that Indiana has played this week without Malik Reneau were their 2 best offensive performances of the season. I don't think that's a coincidence.
You don't think it's a coincidence? I think this one just comes down to the Oumar Ballo revenge game after not playing in the last one for unspecified reasons, but we have our suspicions. So he comes back, plays really well, has a different chip on his shoulder, playing without Reneau, so the lane isn't quite as clogged up as it normally is. And while Reneau has been pretty good from the perimeter, it helps whenever you just surround everybody with a little bit more guards, a little bit more floor spacing. All those things help, and you're playing good or Goody and M'Bako together. And if M'Bako/McTaco/ whatever it is shoots the ball well and plays and is just a threat, he doesn't have to be great. He just has to be a threat. Oumar Ballo can have big games, and today he certainly did. M'Bako going 4 of 8, that's big time for them, for this Indiana team, and going up against pressure. So the floor is going to open up, and Oumar Ballo obviously had his way. Good for Indiana. They keep the dream alive. 12-3, 3-1. Did we start complaining too early with Mike Woodson? That's my biggest question.
Yeah, that's a question I have too. Tyler, I want to hit you on this, man. Normally when we bring you on the show, you are the first person to tout every big man that we see in the world of college basketball. Nobody loves a good throwback low post player more than Tyler Hansbrough does. But now, is it better? Like, less big guys? You take one of the big guys out, all of a sudden Indiana looks like a team that might be able to win some road games in the Big Ten. What's happening here, man? I'm putting you in an awkward spot. You might have to compliment a team for going small here.
No, I'm old school. I like to have 2 bigs, believe it or not. And I'm watching Carolina right now, and believe me, we would take as many bigs as we could get. But I will say this. I respect this game from Ballo. Fighting through a little bit of adversity, coming out, making a statement game. But also, M'Bako took over to start the second half when it's tied 29-29. He came out, had the first 8 points to start the second half, hit 2 threes. And I can tell you, as a big man, I don't care how many bigs you have on the court, when you have guys that are connecting from the 3-point line, it opens it up, and it really gives you a lot of room to work inside where defenses can't clog up the lane and make everything difficult for you. So when you surround him with some outside shooting, I think that helps big time as well.
Tio, where do you stand on Indiana at this point? I was ready to write them off on Thanksgiving. I remember on Thanksgiving because it was the day after they got utterly embarrassed by Louisville. They lose by 16 to Gonzaga. They head into the 7th place game of the battle for Atlantis. But since that loss to Gonzaga, they've won 8 out of 9. They got a win over Providence in there. They beat Rutgers on Thursday. They won what was effectively a road game at Penn State today. And all of a sudden, they're sitting here. They're 12-3. They're 3-1 of the Big Ten in a league where Maryland is sitting there at 1-3 right now, right? And it feels like I don't know. Have they turned a corner here? Am I buying too much into it? Am I buying into the hype?
I think you might be buying into this recent four game win streak, because if you look at those 4 games, Chattanooga, good team, but it's not the Big Ten. Winthrop, good team, not the Big South. Rutgers is going to be in the bottom third of this league. They are super talented. They're super fun to watch. But I think this is a discussion for a whole other day. Like, would you rather spend your NIL allotment on 2 top tier players, or would you rather disperse that money throughout the top 7 or 8 and maybe not have that top end talent, but bring the rest along with you? I think that's a good discussion to have, especially when we have a coach on maybe during the offseason. That all being said, Rutgers has been struggling. And then Penn State, if you handle pressure, you can outsize them. I like that game. Here's the thing. I think they win against USC, and then Kim Pom has them projected to lose like 10 in a row. 12 in a row. We'll see how they are after this next ball game. I think they beat Southern Cal at home. That's a long trip for Southern Cal in the Must Bus. And then you're going to play at Iowa. Tough place to play because nobody likes Iowa. It's the worst place on planet Earth, Iowa. Then you get to play at home against Illinois. You're projected to lose that game. And then it can kind of pile on you. It can really pile on you if you don't shoot the ball well. So Indiana is capable. Have they shot it all that well this season? No. 215th in the country, 32.5% from 3. That's going to have to get up around that 36, 37 range for them to do real damage over the Big Ten schedule. But I want to wait and see after this Southern Cal game how they're able to progress.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, right? You get past Southern Cal, and 5 of your next 7 and 6 of your next 9 are on the road, and that includes trips to Purdue, to Wisconsin, to the Kohl Center. You got to play at Michigan State in there. It doesn't get any easier, Tyler. We saw Purdue at home today beat up on Northwestern. I think it ended up being a 16-point final, Tyler, but Purdue was up by like 28, 29 for most of that second half. Right now, who do you feel better about? Because I feel like the narrative has kind of been Purdue is a little bit down and Indiana is a little bit down, but I would argue these are the 2 best performances that we've seen all season from Indiana these last 2 games. Right now, who are you riding with? Are you on the Purdue bandwagon or are you on the Indiana bandwagon?
No, I'm on the Purdue bandwagon. And, a big reason for that is obviously you lose Edey, you're going to take a step back. Just losing somebody of his size and what he does. But I think
who's been great in the NBA, by the way, Tyler? Who's been great?
Absolutely. And by the way, I've always believed that he could be a big time NBA player. Not trying to tell you guys I told you so, but
you can do
his
that.
size,
Rob does that all the time. All the time. You just go ahead.
You are a little bit.
Well, his size, and he moves well for his size, has good touch. I hope he keeps doing his thing. He deserves it. Plus, he works hard. But back to Purdue, I think we kind of overlooked how good Braden Smith was going to be and the impact that some of these guys, while Edey was getting a lot of attention, I think a lot of these other guys were really developing in those tournament runs and what they went through. I think some people may have overlooked how good Braden Smith was going to be. Fletcher Lawyer, how the improvement that he's made, and also Trey Kaufman-Wren and how he's come along. And this team has a way of winning. They built a winning culture based off of these years, minus their early exit in the tournament. So I like Purdue.
That's the easiest question we'll answer all day. The answer is Purdue. That's it. That's the answer. So, like Braden Smith, he's been fantastic, and it's just Paint or Woodson, and Woodson's been fine this year. I just talked about like they're 12-3, 3-1, like. They've been fine. It's just if you're putting them head to head, I'm going Purdue every single time because I know that Paint is going to put them in the right spots. Braden Smith has taken a huge jump, and then as a team, they're shooting almost 40% from 3. It's Purdue. It's all day. They'll be fine.
Yeah, I like what I like today from Purdue is it felt a little bit more like they were kind of putting the ball in Braden Smith's hands and saying, "All right, get out of the way. Just let this dude go out there and create something. Put him in those high ball screens. Let him get to his right hand. You don't have to run all that much. You got the best player on the floor right there, To. Sometimes it feels like coaches overthink it, right? It's like we got to run all this stuff. We got to do this. We got to do that. Well, just look. You got the best point guard in America. Put him in a ball screen and let him figure it out from there.
I think another thing is too is I like what Northwestern does. I think their coaching staff is good, but you look at that roster up and down. It's not quite like the Big Ten, like the other teams in the Big Ten, especially someone just because we're talking about them like a Penn State that's super athletic and you got to make a move. I would venture to say that Purdue, like if you're playing against Northwestern, you have the best player on the floor. They don't have to move all that much because Northwestern's going to be in position. So just run a quick ball screen at him. Let my man cook. He ends up with 22, 6, and 7. That's not terrible. And the crazy part is it's no surprise at this point because he's been that effective all season long. So that's kind of like Purdue's just damn good. Northwestern, I picked them, I want to say like, it was an 18-team league. I picked them like 16th, 17th, or 18th, something like that. I think that's about right. It's just a matter of like, who else is down there at the bottom with them. But I think Braden Smith is pure point guards as far as that's concerned, best one in the country. And I've said that for a couple of weeks now, and I still believe it. I think Chucky Hepburn, I had him yesterday. He's flirting with it because that dude is awesome, and we're not giving him any attention. Louisville's been banged up. But right now it's Braden Smith with Chucky Hepburn like catching up.
Yeah, put a pin in that Louisville conversation. We're going to get to that here in a little bit because I want to dive in there a little bit more. So Illinois is a team. Okay, Illinois on Thursday night goes out and puts up 109 on the road at Oregon, top 10 team in America, flying across the country. It's their first road trip in this new expanded 4 time zone Big Ten, and they put together one of I would argue maybe the most impressive performance we've seen all season on Thursday, Tyler. Then they come back on Sunday afternoon, another game on the West Coast. They've been on the West Coast for 4 days. They're probably a little bit tired at this point, and they play the bottom team in the Big Ten that just is coming off of a win over Maryland, and they tried to give it away at the end, but they didn't. They end up winning. Illinois 81. Washington 77. I'm going to make a statement here, and I want to know if you guys think this is crazy. Tyler, we'll go to you first. Tio, I want your opinion on this too. I think Illinois is a top 10 team in America. I understand that there are some questions on what they are defensively, and there's a little bit of youth stuff, and maybe they're not so physical. But you look at the way that they're trending. You look at the development of Kasparis Yakashonis, KJ for short. You look at kind of what Dre Gibbs Lawhorn is giving them off the bench. I just everything about what this Illinois team is screams incredibly dangerous in March to me, Tyler. I think they're a top 10 team in America with a ceiling too. We had that conversation with Duke, great freshman, long-term development. I don't know why we don't have that same conversation with Illinois.
I agree. And the more I watch Illinois, the better they look. And a big reason for that could be KJ keeps improving. And he is a guy that can go and get you a bucket. And tonight, especially when they needed a bucket late in the game, he was able to penetrate right to the basket for a wide open layup. And he keeps getting better. And he's one of those guys that's going to, make smart plays. He's a guy you can rely on at the free throw line. He's been an extremely impressive freshman, but also the Boswell kid, he keeps improving. And also the Trey White, he continues to get a little bit more aggressive. And the supporting cast around him, they just keep on improving and improving. And the more I see Illinois, the more I tend to agree with you, Dauster. I think that they could end up being a potential Final Four team, which, it's hard for me to say that off of the way Illinois fans came at me last year, but I will give you guys credit. I do like your team. I got to be truthful and honest.
They're good, man. They're good. And what have we said about Brad Underwood for years now? Now we've given him supremely talented freshman, and then you look at how he's able to develop that talent over the course of time, and now we're creeping into the middle of January. There are going to be growing pains. I think with Yakachonis and Ivisic, those are different kind of freshmen because I think they come from these European systems. They've been drilled and drilled and drilled. So it's a little bit different. They have to adjust to the size and the speed and the physicality of what college basketball is. It's just flying up and down compared to their respective games. But over there, they're having to figure out pieces to the puzzle. Once their brain slows down, when they come to the college game, things start to click. I think that's what's happening now. And whenever you go to the Pacific Northwest, and let's keep in mind too, the trip from Illinois to the Pacific Northwest isn't all that long. So like it's a 2-3 hour flight. That's all well and good, but it's not like Rutgers going over to Oregon and just blowing somebody out. So I'm not going to give them that much credit for this, but you're going to the Pacific Northwest, two game to start conference play, knock out that part of the country and do so in emphatic fashion. That's awesome. And, Washington kind of developing. Danny Sprinkle's trying to figure it out in year one. Oregon's damn good. To put up a $109 against Oregon, downright impressive.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, right? Like we know,
What's even crazier about this? This is where I know, like, the producer decided that we know he's an Illinois guy. So Trevor ends up sending out 30 tweets about Illinois as soon as we start talking about him. So I'm not saying the field of 68 is biased in one direction or another, but I'm not saying it at this point.
Yeah, you would say right now there's a 30-0 run on Illinois tweets versus UConn tweets so far on this podcast today. No, but look, I honestly think that they are. I think that they can win it all. Right. Like I think that they are good enough to be able to do that because of what their offensive firepower is, because they gave up. I wouldn't say that they are, when you watch them play, that they are the best defensive team in America, but their numbers net out. I think they're top 15 on KenPom in adjusted efficiency defensively. Right. And the thing that stands out more than anything for me, and Tyler, I want your opinion on this, is they got guys that have fully bought into their roles. Right, like Kylan Boswell has come back, and he's not the guy anymore. He's just the dude next to KJ. He's the complementary piece. Ben Humrickis has come in, and it's the first time, like, in his career that he's been a guy that hasn't dominated the ball with the ball in his hands. And you look at what Ivisic has kind of accepted. Will Riley is the highest rated recruit they've ever had, and he's like, yeah, I'll play 20 minutes off the bench. Dre Gibbs-Longhorn, I mentioned him earlier. It's like he reminds me of what Hassan Diarra was for UConn last year, where you just bring him in for 20 minutes and it's all energy, all electric. I'm going to go try to mess some shit up here defensively. I'm going to maybe make something happen offensively, and it's just all energy. I think everything about the way that these pieces fit is really, really dangerous and what you look for in a tournament team.
Yeah, and I'll give Underwood a lot of credit because this team is so new, and then having players that are coming to a new program, they're not trying to prove themselves. They're trying to be about the team and fit in with their role, which is pretty rare. And you've got a bunch of different guys that can do different things, and everyone is kind of on the same page, especially when I hear the post-game interviews and the players talking. KJ is our guy, and that is our go-to guy when we need a bucket. And sometimes you'll hear teams where, I think they know who they are, and they play their roles very well, and they're all about the team, which is very impressive, and it says a lot about the coaching staff.
And you referenced the defense, Rob. Really, the only bad defensive performance they've had all year was the Alabama game in a semi-away contest. You take that one out, they might even be creeping up in the top 7 or 8. So, like, I think the biggest adjustment sometimes for these super skilled guys that come over from Europe, and I think, Tyler could attest to this, like, it's the physicality. It's how quick you have to get to these help spots sometimes. Like, defensively, you have to fly around, and I think that's an adjustment, and they have adjusted accordingly. And you take away that game November 20th against Alabama, Illinois does have a top 10 defense in college basketball, probably closer to top 6, 7.
All right, I got one more hot take that I'm going to fire at you guys. It's from a game that happened last night. Michigan and USC. Michigan goes on the road and wins at USC 85-74. I don't know how many people realize this, but Michigan is literally 3 possessions away right now, T.O., from being undefeated. They lost to Wake Forest in it was in Charlotte, or I don't know, it was in North Carolina.
It was in Greensboro. It was in Greensboro.
Yeah. They lost to Arkansas in Madison Square Garden, and they lost to Oklahoma in I forget where that game was, but it was another neutral site game, effectively a road game. All 3 of those games, they blew double-digit lead. I'm sorry, the Oklahoma game was the one in Charlotte. That was the Jumpman Invitational. All 3 of those games, they blew double-digit leads, right? the big thing for them is going to be figuring out how to close games. I feel like they did that a little bit at USC. I will be more in on them if they do the same thing at UCLA on Tuesday. But with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden running those 4 or 5 ball screens, Danny Wolf had 21-12, 6 blocks, and a couple assists the other night. I think Michigan is right there as well. I think we're really undervaluing how dangerous they are long-term and big picture, T.O.
Hey, let me say this. Tyler took his victory lap earlier with Zach Edey. I'm taking my victory lap right now because I caught a lot of hell from Big Ten people saying Michigan and Michigan State would be at the top of the league. I caught a lot of hell. Ant Wright, I deserve an apology. All I got from Ant Wright was, Tia, what is this? When he saw my Michigan State, Michigan, I love them at the top, like really good. And I love watching Danny Wolf play. I talked to somebody the other day. I was like, 7-foot guy, maybe 7'1", big across the shoulders, can handle the ball like a point guard in ball screens. That's a nightmare to try to learn how to defend. I like this Michigan team. You said it. 3 losses were 5 points. 5 points away from being 14-0. And Dusty May has done an incredible job. Like, obviously, your resources at Michigan are just out of this world, but you still have to plug and play and piece these guys together and how that's going to work. Danny Wolf was a home run, and then you're able to keep a couple of guys. But I thought Trey Donaldson was good. Roddy Gale was a big-time addition. He committed high treason from coming from Ohio State. But it's like these guys fit together. They're really good. And giving up big leads, that's something that gets better with time. You can work on some of the things. You can work on your go-to offenses at the end of the clock that can help alleviate some of those problems. But it's better to go through those things early in the season, most of the time pre-Christmas, and then you can figure those things out January, February, and March. And then, man, Michigan, don't be surprised. Elite 8, possible. I mean, maybe even further. That's a really, really good team.
Tyler, I need you to lock in on the Wolverines, man. I need you to lock in. I promise you that this could end up being your favorite team in college basketball in the non-North Carolina division.
You know what, guys? I mean, there's still a lot of Big Ten games to go, so let's not get too excited about this. I'll just say this. The Wolf kid, I love his game. The fact that he's 7 foot, handling the ball, great passer, and Golden has really improved, still getting better and better. Unbelievable around the rim, and he's also a really good pick and roll. He runs right to the rim. Great roller and pretty athletic as well. I do like Michigan. I'm not sure I like him as much as Illinois, but I will say as far as the Big Ten goes, these 2 teams are right there at the top. And I know that Michigan has played a tough schedule and lost some close ones, but usually when you have issues closing games out or finishing or making plays when it really counts, usually you're a younger team or you're kind of new. So hopefully as the season goes on and they're, in these situations more and more, they continue to get better and they start closing some of these games out.
All right, real quick, I just want to hit on Oregon. Avoided going 1-3 in league play. Come back. They were down 13 in the first half against Maryland. They got 23 from Jackson Shellstead, who looked like he kind of broke out of his slump. Let me ask you this. I want both of you guys to kind of weigh on this because you've played at this level. Oregon gets their ass kicked, right? At home, embarrassed by Illinois to the point that everyone's like, why do we have Illinois ranked here and Oregon ranked here? And you come back and you're down by 13 halfway through the first half of your next game against a team that you're trying to avoid 1-3 start in league play. How should I be impressed that they were able to come back from that deficit, Tyler? Or should I be impressed that Oregon got their ass kicked, looked like they were going to get their ass kicked again, and then found a way to be able to go out and actually get a win that they absolutely needed to get?
Yeah, you should be impressed. Anytime there's like a must-win situation that everyone classifies, and a team pulls through and gets a dub, that's something. I mean, that's a big-time accomplishment. But I will say this: I've been in situations when I was playing. We started out, I think, maybe in 08, 09. We started out conference play 0-2, and so you can't ever get too, up or down either direction. To start conference play. It is a long year, and sometimes you get off to a little bit of a rocky start. Now, Oregon's first half of the year has been very impressive, beating Alabama to win the NIL tournament. You got to give them credit for that. But playing in a new conference, sometimes you get off to rocky starts, but Oregon pulling through and coming through in the clutch, that says a lot about them as well.
I think it's big for him, but I do get a little worried. And the reason I get a little worried initially is because after giving up 170 points against a good Illinois team, you play Maryland. Maryland scores 79, and they do it on 50-43 shooting from the field. 50% from the field, 43% from three. So what did you really take away from it? Not only that, Maryland on the road gets 19 free throws. So, like, glad you won. It's always great to win. Winning's always great, but you need to defend better. You have the athletes there at Oregon to be able to defend at a much higher level. You needed Jackson Shellstad to go for 5 for 5 from three. You needed a great shooting night from multiple guys to make it happen. You got to be able to rely on your defense, and Oregon has the athletes to do that. That has to change.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here imagining right now, Tyler Hansbrough, reigning National Player of the Year, comes back to school, starts 0-2 in ACC play. Imagine how many crazy headlines we could have had on the field of 68 if we were in existence then. Our YouTube numbers would have been spectacular. Listen, guys, we got a lot to get to from the weekend. I do want to hit Tyler on something that he texted us in the group chat about who the best freshman in the ACC is. I'm going to pick his brain on that. But when we come back, UConn, come back win, baby. You can never hold us down. Come back from 13 points down to beat Providence at home in a game they probably shouldn't have been down by 13 points. That is after the break. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description. Back to the Field of 68 after dark here, Sunday night edition. Rob Dauster, Tyler Hansbrough, Terrence Oglesby. We just spent about the first 30 minutes of the show breaking down the Big Ten, everything you need to know about the Big Ten. The nicest things you're ever going to hear about Illinois basketball here on the Field of 68. UConn down by 13, TO, in the first half against Providence, put up a 60 spot in the second half. They still have not figured out how to be able to stop anybody, stop dribble penetration, keep people from being able to get to the rim. Where do you stand on UConn now, big picture? Obviously, they've won 8 in a row since they got back from Maui. Got a couple of decent wins in that run, a couple of performances where maybe it wasn't as impressive as it should have been.
Win's a win. Win's a win. I know Providence was about to be lit on fire if that would have happened, but it didn't happen. I thought Providence played really well as they possibly could have played. But I thought what ended up happening was UConn kind of exerted their physicality after Providence threw their best shot at him. And it was a really tough best shot. But then UConn kind of started rolling because their physicality lasts for that full 40 minutes, where I think Providence has some of that in them. It just hasn't been that consistent this season. So I think there's a wearing effect when you play UConn because they're going to continue doing their thing. If I'm Alex Caravan, though, I better start sliding them puppies. Because I think a lot of people watching this game, especially opposing teams, they're going to be watching to see what did Providence do to exploit Connecticut a little bit. And I think that dribble drive right away, getting the right matchup, you're going to have to stay down and contest or do something to keep your balance because it was tough. And, credit to Providence. They gave their all, played 8 guys, significant minutes. Just didn't have enough. Just didn't have enough to finish it out.
Tyler?
Well, congrats to Providence for keeping it close, but where I stand on UConn is a contender. I don't question this. You take away the trip from to Maui and what they've done post that and before that, UConn to me, I just believe in Dan Hurley. I think he's going to have his team playing defense. They're going to figure it out. They're also more of a veteran team. I do like the kid Samson Johnson. I think that he can be a rim protector. He's an athletic big. He can pick and roll, and he is a lob threat. And Caravan, even though you guys are a little critical of his defense, he is a big guard. He can knock down shots. And the Reed kid coming off the bench. Now, I really like his game. I think he's kind of old school. He will duck in. He will give you right hooks. He will score around the basket. You know I'm a big fan of UConn.
I think Terrence Reed, I thought his impact today, Rob, was so much bigger than his stat line indicated. Like, he's just everywhere. He brought a certain amount of physicality that I don't think Samson Johnson's quite capable of. Like, you bring Terrence Reed in there, that's like older brother on the block. Like, you got to come out there, and he's going to bring a certain type of play, a certain type of physicality. He's going to punch you in the mouth, and he's going to board. He's going to finish around the rim. Like, he brings a certain mentality with that second unit. I've kind of been curious as to why Samson Johnson's still in the starting lineup, to be honest with you. I like him, sure, but Terrence Reed just brings so much to that team. But I guess he's that second jolt of energy after that first media timeout. But where am I with UConn? I think they win a couple games in the tournament. Do I think they win a third national championship in a row? I don't think that's going to be the case, but I do think this is a really good team, and it's going to be a fun watch for the rest of the season. I almost feel weird because when I say they're not going to win a national championship, I almost feel like I'm slighting them, and that is the greatest compliment that you can give a program and its staff. Is I feel guilty for saying I don't think they can win a third national championship in a row. I do think they're very good, and I think they can make a second weekend. That's kind of where I'm at with UConn so far.
Yeah, I think it's the points about Terrence Reed I think are really important as far as why Samson's still starting. There's a leadership thing there that within that locker room that he kind of brings that I think is a dynamic that the staff likes. What I will say is this: Liam McNeely did not play in this game. He's got the ankle injury. He's expected to be out for, I think it's they said weeks. They're hoping for the end of January. I think that pushing for the Creighton game on January 18th is probably a little bit too optimistic, but we'll see. It's high ankle sprains, man. You never really know how long those things take. I thought Aiden Mahaney's performance off the bench today was so important for what UConn can be long-term and big picture, right? What Providence did on the defensive end was they overplayed everything on the wings. They switched every screen. They top locked. They did everything that they could to take away any kind of offensive set that UConn would run. And then they did not guard UConn's 5 at the top of the key, left their big in front of the rim to take away any back cuts. So they said, you're not going this way over the screen. And if you cut back door, we got 7-foot Oswin, however you say his last name, standing there in front of the bucket. Good luck trying to finish over him. And
that with UConn with UConn too, their point guard comes back and gets the ball on every freaking set they have. It's a bunch of wash until the point guard comes back and gets it. It's been like that for 3 years.
Yep.
They get creative. There's a lot of slips. They get creative. The point guard's always coming back to get the ball. Sorry, Rob. Go ahead with your.
It's an important point because Asan Diarra is not a guy. I know he had 19 and 8 tonight, right? But he's not a guy that you want being. Yeah, but in an ideal role, he's more of a facilitator than he is the guy that you have isolating, trying to create off the bounce. He's not his best skill is not as a scorer. Aiden Mahaney's best skill is as a scorer, and I thought that his ability to come in and create offense when Providence is basically saying you're going to have to beat us one-on-one with your guards, and that's how you're going to have to win this game. Mahaney had 15 points off the bench. I think he scored 12 of them in the second half, and most importantly, there was a level of fight from him defensively that I don't think we've seen yet this season. Like he's had a rough beginning of the year. He's not a great defender. And I think the fact that he's not a great defender has it's almost like a mental thing for him at this point. He knows that he's being targeted by opposing offenses. And it's if he gets beat off the dribble once, like he's not going to fight on that next possession. tonight he did. I think that's really impressive. I think it's really important for them long term, and I think he needed a shout out for that one. Tyler, with UConn, like they remind me a little bit of Alabama last year, where you're going to get points of them all as long as they have like a 10-minute stretch where they actually can get some stops. I think that's what's going to end up being the difference maker for them. I'm still not convinced that can happen, but I mean, they did it today.
Yeah, and here we go, Rob. I just think that they're big enough with Caravan. I think he has length. Sampson, even though he's not the typical duck in big, I think he is a rim protector. So even though they're not the best defensive team right now, I do think that they have certain players that, as the season goes on, will allow them to cover up some of their defensive flaws. Like Caravan having issues staying in front of the ball and allowing penetration into the lane. I think Sampson's a guy who's athletic enough to block those shots, provide rim protection, and make up for the lack of defense sometimes at the perimeter may present with UConn.
All right, I want to pivot. Go ahead, Tio. Go ahead. If you got a point.
I think there's Aiden Mahaney's going to have to guard, man. Caravan's going to have to guard. It's it's come down so much over the past X amount of years with that extra year of eligibility, a bunch of old dudes. Like, people figure out the mismatches they want, and they're able to do so with consistency. It's all about a game of mismatches. You got to be able to defend. It's coming from a guy, T, that never defended. So I'm saying this with concern, because you're at least going to have to provide some type of resistance, or if you're not the best defender, you got to know where exactly your help's coming from. So if anything else, you get them to go that way. But it's I like the point that Tyler makes. You do have some monsters back there and some athletic dudes that can block shots and help fix some mistakes, but there's got to be some resistance.
All right, I want to pivot to another blue blood, because Kansas, coming off of what was one of their more disappointing performances of the season in a loss at home, they go on the road to UCF in a building where Texas A&M has already lost this season, and they win 99-48. I believe this was the biggest road win in the history of the Big 12 Conference. Did I see that stat correctly? The biggest road win in the history of the Big 12 Conference. They won by 51 on the road, and this is a Kansas team. I was perfectly ready. T.O., I am not going to lie to you, man. I thought that they were going to lose this game. I thought that they were going to go into UCF and get beat the way that Texas A&M got beat. And I was ready to come onto this exact show and say, I'm out. I've sold all my Kansas stock. I am out on them. And then they go and they put together this performance. Hunter Dickinson at 27-9. We got 14 points from Rylan Griffin, who hit all 4 of his threes off the bench. AJ Storr had 11 and 15 minutes. Your boy Flory Badunga, 12 points, 6 blocks, 5 rebounds. I don't know. I don't know what to make. Kansas has me completely flummoxed. And if you want me to, I can tell you what the definition of flummox is, T.O.
Spell it. No, I'm just kidding. It's UCF. It's UCF. And they just beat Texas Tech, sure. They beat them on the road, sure. The only player with any type of size is, help me with the pronunciation here, is Mustafa Dame. And it's like, he's 7'2", but he's a freshman. Do you think you're going to go up against Flory Badunga and Hunter Dickinson and have a good night? I think two-parter here. I don't think UCF's all that good. Full transparency. I just don't think they're all that good. Another thing is I think it was a terrible matchup for UCF because of the size discrepancy. They do rely on creating some turnovers and getting some offense that way. Darius Johnson has been awesome defensively. He's one of the best steal guys. I think he's like leading the Power 5 basketball conferences in steals per game. You're not going to do that against some of the guys from Kansas. You're just not. So that obviously it's going to be tough sometimes, because you're going to run into guys that are exactly what you don't need. Like, you think DeJuan Harris is going to turn the basketball over and lead to points? No. So you have massive size on top of that, and then you have and then you don't turn the basketball over. UCF's going to have a hard time. I'm not putting too much into it.
No, I think that even though Kansas has me scratching my head sometimes, I really feel like they're getting more production out of some of their, their portal guys like AJ Storr coming out. and having a big night. I think that if he provides more production and becomes a productive player and gives them some points off the bench, I think that makes Kansas a different team. And also Badunga, and he's a freshman that's going to continue to improve. Again, he's another one of those springy, athletic bigs. I think that KJ Adams, he hasn't had his most productive season so far. There's been a few rumblings where, his fans are a little upset, but I think, when he's not having a great game, you can start to rely on Badunga a little bit to provide a lot of things that KJ Adams has done in the past, even though he played well tonight. And I believe in Hunter Dickinson. You guys know that.
Yeah, Hunter was awesome, man. Like they got to find a way to be able to make him this version of Hunter Dickinson every night. And I don't know
Hunter
if that you might be right.
Hunter Dickinson's a bully.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that as a basketball player. He's a bully. When he's playing against freshmen and he can get leverage on you, he's a bully. When he's playing against somebody who's just as physical and going to embrace that contact, he's not as good. And we've seen that consistently. That's why he never goes deep in the tournament, because he's been disappearing there. That's what's happened with Hunter Dickinson. He goes up to UCF. He plays against a freshman starter who's 7'2", the only guy with real size. They list Benny Williams at 6'10". That's not true. He's probably closer to 6'8", and he's been a disappointment in his own right. But like, Hunter Dickinson's a bully. When he starts doing this against Iowa State, when he starts doing this against some of these guys that are real Final Four contenders, I'll turn back into a Kansas believer. But until then, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it as well. I don't know. I've gone to this rant before. I don't love the fit of the pieces that Kansas has put together, but that's a different conversation for a different day. We need to talk about Ian Jackson, who may be the best freshman in the ACC. Did I hear that right? Is that a rumor that people are talking about? We're going to get to that. We're going to get to Alabama. We're going to talk a little bit about the top 5 teams in college basketball. Plus, I'm going to let Tyler say what he's got to say about Kentucky, man. Kentucky got a huge win over a top 10 team in the country on Saturday morning, basically. That'll be coming up next.
Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Hummel podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Well, welcome back to the Sunday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster. I got Terrence Oglesby with me. I got Tyler Hansbrough with me. And since we got T here, we got to talk about North Carolina, who went on the road to South Bend and knocked off Notre Dame in a game where Marcus Burton was back. He was back from the injury. I think he had 21 off the bench. He was there was a stretch there where he was the best player on the floor. That is a better win than it looks on paper right now. And it happened because Elliot Cadeau hit a 3 and 1 4-point play with, I think it was 4.8 seconds left. But that's not what I want to talk about here. I want to talk about Ian Jackson, a.k.a. In Jackson here, Tyler. You said he was the best freshman in the ACC. And I know that you believe that with your whole heart, probably because you are a Tar Heel. But he's been unbelievable. I think it's 5 straight games, right, that he scored 20-plus points. He has been a complete difference maker, and it looks like he is a guy. I don't know if I necessarily saw this coming, T. I don't know if I saw him being this kind of a guy moving forward? Just talk to me about what you've seen out of Ian Jackson.
Well, first of all, Cooper Flagg has gotten so much hype and so much attention that I think it's already automatically written that he's going to win all the awards. And my only point in saying that is that, listen, hey, there's a lot of other freshmen out there playing big-time basketball. You look at Illinois, KP's having an unbelievable year. And then you look at my Tar Heels, even though we're struggling a little bit, In Jackson has been a breakout player. He's had big-time games. And he continues to get better and better. And also, he has taken over some of the games. There's been moments in games where, especially against, like, you watch the Florida game, Ian Jackson took over in the second half and basically has become a highlight show. And athletically, he has the athleticism to just elevate over a defender. He can get you a bucket. He can take players off the dribble, and also he will get out and run. Now, I know that Seth Trimble has been injured, and played very well against Louisville, even though he lost. And then he went on the road at Notre Dame and played unbelievable again. And for a freshman, especially on the road, to play as well as he's been playing to start pretty much all conference games, I'm looking forward to him, especially because he continues to get better and better as the season goes on, as confidence develops. There's going to be a little challenges, and this could be a player that potentially challenges Cooper Flagg for Freshman of the Year, which I think in winning it, the odds are against him just because of the amount of hype from Flagg, and obviously he's playing well, but I think he could challenge him just a little bit.
Hey, look, he keeps scoring 23, 24 every single night, T.O. It's gonna be very easy to look at it and say, hey, you know what, this guy right here is pretty good.
No, he's really good. Can you hear me? First of all, my mic has been popping on and off. But no, I think you referenced the Florida game. The Florida game is almost like it's that second half in the Florida game, it springboarded his confidence to a whole new level. And with Trimble going down, hey, man, like, I'm just going to be honest. It's kind of refreshing. And I'm not saying I love Seth Trimble, but like, you sit out some games and you're injured. And I don't, what's his injury? What's his injury before I start going crazy?
I don't think they've really.
I watch
games, maybe a lower body or something. Yeah.
Off. I watch games with the volume off. So, like, I don't know what his injury is. He's out. Dude, you don't play games. Somebody's coming for your freaking spot. Like, I think that has been lost these days. Like, if you don't play in a game, somebody's going to show up. They're going to play well, and they're going to take your spot. That spot's Ian Jackson's. It's not going back. And if it goes back, somebody needs their brain examined. Ian Jackson is and has been awesome. I'll be honest, guys. Him shooting 40% from three, curveball for me. I saw him play several times in AAU before he got to Carolina. Great off the bounce, super strong build, super quick. You knew he was going to be a plus defender. I didn't know he was going to shoot 40% from three. I didn't know he was going to be able to come off screens and be able to knock down shots. And maybe that's my naivete. I'm sure some of these recruiting experts will come back. Well, you didn't watch enough. Well, you're probably right. I only saw 2 or 3 games, but I didn't see him play or shoot very well in those 2 or 3 games. He's been awesome. He's coming off screens or setting up plays. And if you look at the game, like, he's finally giving RJ a little bit of a breather. So now RJ is not the only person that has been struggling. I thought it was very telling whenever North Carolina played Louisville, Chucky Hepburn started off on RJ. They left RJ to go get Ian. And that to me, that's a lot of respect for a freshman who's really starting to find his rhythm and get into gear. You play him less than 35 minutes in the last, 15, 20 games of this season, you better not, because he's going to give you a chance to win every single night. And let's be honest too. I had Notre Dame a couple days ago. Mike is still very much in the throes of trying to rebuild a team. And he's being allowed to do it a certain way, which is going to take some time, but they're going to be tough and they're going to lose some games, but they're going to be close. To be able to squeak one out and have a Princeton grad transfer foul a 3-point shooter with no time left is, hey man, sometimes lucky's better than good. This was one of those cases right here. And if you're a North Carolina fan, you take it and you run with it, because you can't afford to lose games like that.
What do you do? You made a point about Seth Trimble, right? What do you do here, Tyler, when he gets back and he gets healthy? Because I feel like if you're going to put your 5 best players on the floor, RJ, Ian, Seth, and Elliott are probably the first 4 guys on that list of who your best players are. Can you just roll with this squad and just say, hey, we're going with 4 guards? Like we're going with the 2006 Villanova look, Randy Foy, and all those guys. I feel like that is probably what I would do, and just lean all the way into the small ball idea and let it just go with a Jalen Washington, Jalen Withers, Van Allen Lubin rotation at the 5 spot. That feels small, but you want to get those guys on the floor. Like you got to get them all out there.
Yeah, and I would say, I like that take, and it's kind of the direction that we're trending. The one thing about and adding him into the lineup or giving him more minutes is it provides RJ a little bit of relief, like T.O. said, is I really felt that a lot of shots that RJ was taking, especially in the half-court sets, they're contested, they're challenged, they're hero shots, and the amount of energy he's exerting to get a decent look is unbelievable.
Yep.
And it's not sustainable. And defenses are loading up on RJ and just making everything difficult for him. And a big part of that is because of our lack of outside shooting from the other guards that are on the court with RJ. And if we have a player like Ian come in and really break out and provide a lot of scoring, maybe that's going to, provide enough relief where RJ can get into the flow and be the player that we all thought he was going to be this year. But back to, the 4 guards, I totally agree with that. And another kid, Drake Powell, who is a freshman and continues to get better and better and does a lot of different things besides just scoring. He can provide you some rebounding. He can also lock down other players. He can play defense. He has the athleticism. He will get out and run and do a lot of different things besides just scoring. Kind of similar to the way that Seth impacts the game. What I really like about Seth's game is he's a very good defender. He's our best on-the-ball defender. And I really felt like if you look at the Louisville game, we could have used him down the stretch against Hepburn, who kept, just penetrating and finding his way inside the paint and just went to the free throw line every single time. It kind of felt like we couldn't stop from fouling Hepburn and sending him to the free throw line. I think you've got to have Trimble play big minutes, whether that's starting or coming off the bench, just because he's too good of a defender. And also the way that Trimble attacks the rim, gets out and runs in transition is a big it's a big emphasis in the way that we want to play at Carolina up and down this year, especially. I think he does too much on the defensive end and runs too hard to really not give him big minutes.
Tio, we talked a little bit about Louisville and Chucky Hepburn there. I know you had them on Saturday in the game against Virginia. And look, I know Virginia is Virginia this year, right? Like they're going through a coaching change. They lost some pieces. It kind of is what it is. You still go to JPJ and you put 20 on them. You beat 20 piece them. Like I think that this Louisville team and this Louisville program is starting to turn a corner, and it's not the least of which reasons why Kadir Traore is back and he's healthy.
Yeah, and he was awesome in the game against Virginia. Like he just brought a different level of energy and kind of effort, and it was very telling whenever they played Virginia. He was matched up when Elijah Saunders was in the game, and he was matched up with him. When he was out, he took the point guard. And Virginia doesn't have a traditional point guard, and I understand all that, and they're going through a change in this, that, and the third. But his effort level really changed the dynamic of what the game was. And whenever he was in the game, Louisville got better magically. Maybe not magically, but you get my drift. The thing about Louisville guys, like in-conference play has been completely different than non-conference play. They're shooting 37% from 3. Rain Smith last game was awesome. He basically buoyed those percentages by himself. But in non-conference play, they shot 27.6% from 3. So if this continues, this could snowball, because they have the ball movement. They have enough unselfish guys that they're going to find shots. It's a matter of making those shots. When they played against Oklahoma, they didn't make those shots. Played against Ole Miss, they got thumped. I'm not even counting that one. Play against Duke, you got to make those shots. So I'm not totally discouraged. I think Chucky Hepburn is playing as well as anybody in college basketball right now. The way he attacks with the ball in his hands, you're not going to stop him. You get in front of him and you chest him up, he's going to change directions and keep going at you. And he's just so smart and cerebral in his approach and how he finds some other players. They really could take care of the boards, and if they're able to shoot the basketball well, this Louisville team could make a tournament. it's going to be a low seed because, I mean, it just kind of is what it is at this point as far as the non-conference is concerned. But, like, I'm telling you, this Louisville team could end up with 16 wins in conference and make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they got a big one on Tuesday at home against Clemson. Then they're on the road at Pitt. It feels like this is a really, really big week for them in terms of putting together a resume.
I would argue this week is the most important week of Louisville's season.
Yes,
because you have that's a chance to get a win. At SMU is a chance to get maybe not a high quality win, but a quality win, and then they play Pitt on March 1st at home. Like, those are your 4 golden opportunities right there. Metrically, all those teams, those 3 teams are good. You have to win those games if you're going to get into the NCAA tournament.
Yep, I tend to agree. All right, we got about 5 minutes left here. I want to dive into something that our social team pushed out earlier that got quite a bit of traction. Is actually, I think, an interesting conversation. I want both of you guys to weigh in on this. Fact or fiction? Is Kentucky a top 10 team in college basketball right now? Tyler.
Yes. Yes. And the reason I say that, obviously the big win against Florida, but also they have pieces. Andrew Carr kid, the inside out big. He's playing unbelievable. But Lamont Butler is a guy who's been part of winning teams, and I think he's playing better than a lot of people anticipated. He's had some big games, and if you look at the Florida game, he kind of took it over there right before half. He kind of went off a little bit. He's getting out, pressuring guards, making them turn the ball over, leading the break. And Pope has the fan base excited beyond belief.
Do they?
Yeah, they're a top 5 team. I don't know what the apprehension's about. Like, their metrics took a hit defensively after that Florida game. Of course, I think both teams' metrics took a hit after that Florida game because 106 to 100 in a conference game, 2 top 10 teams in college basketball. If you're going to win today's college game, you got to score points. Exhibit A. So, like, do I think they're a top 5 team? Yeah, right now I definitely do. I don't know what the apprehension's really about. And unless you want to say, well, they don't have top flight draft picks, well, Rutgers does, and look where they're at. Like, it's not about having top draft picks at this point in college basketball, because a lot of people are getting some of these, exceptionally good basketball players in the transfer portal. They're just not quite that level, but they're smart enough to understand what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to do it and what their roles are. I love Tyler's point about Lamont Butler. Guys, I'm just going to shoot this thing straight. Like, he couldn't throw it in the ocean last year at San Diego State. I don't know what it was. He's shooting 41% from 3 this year. If that continues, he's going to get paid more money than he was at Kentucky going over and playing wherever the hell, because he doesn't have super size. But if he shoots 42% from 3, he's got a chance because he's one of the best guard defenders in college basketball. So, like, have their defensive metrics taken a hit? Sure. I'm not bothered. I think their pieces fit together perfectly. Kentucky's a top 5 team in college basketball.
It's weird too, because they have 3 elite defenders in their starting lineup. I would argue that Lamont Butler is in the conversation for the best on-ball defender that we're going to find in the sport, right? There's a lot of competition for that, but he's very much in that conversation, might be the best. Otega Owe is a really, really good high-level defender, one of the better defenders at his position. And Amari Williams is a complete difference maker at the 5, right? Like, he was CAA Defensive Player of the Year for like 5 straight years, and he has not gotten bad on that end of the floor. I don't know if it's a scheme thing. I don't know if it's necessarily like a weak link kind of a deal, right? Like, you kind of attack the weak link in their defense. But I'm a little surprised that they aren't better in terms of the metrics overall as a defensive unit than they have been.
They've given up 100 points to Florida. They've given up 85 in a win over Louisville. They've given up 89 to Gonzaga. Take away those 3, and there's not a game over 72 points. I'm not concerned. Kentucky's very good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would probably have him more.
Ken Pom doesn't know what he's talking about.
Ken Pom is clueless. We got to get this guy figured out. We need Jeff Pom on here is what we need. We need Jeff Pom on here to be a
Charleston Southern. It'd be a 5 seed. No, in all seriousness, I think when you have these anomaly games and you have multiple of them, your metrics are going to take a hit. I think that's what's happened with Kentucky, with their Florida game, Louisville, and Gonzaga. Those things happen.
And yeah, just for the record, like Florida is awesome.
Yeah.
They're really, really good. Like they have two of the best tough shot makers you're going to find, and they made a lot of tough shots. I'd probably have Kentucky in like I think they're more of a 2 seed than a 1 seed for me. I probably would have them as the 4th best team in the SEC as of this moment, but I'm not going to argue with anybody that doesn't. Alabama, real quick. So it's a really interesting thing here. I noticed this the other day. They take 50% of their field goals from 3, right? Not a surprising thing if you're Nate Oates. They shoot 31.6% from beyond. Like they're not a very good 3-point shooting team, and they shoot a ton of threes. T.O. weigh in. I want your take here too, Tyler. Like, is that something?
They get 40% of their misses. They get 40% of their misses.
Yeah, they shot 55 threes against South Dakota State. Like, what? I don't know. I can't decide how I feel about Alabama. I love what their ceiling is.
They got 17 offensive rebounds. Okay, so you miss a bunch of threes, you get a bunch of rebounds, still end up scoring. I wonder what, and I'm sure somebody has this metric that's smarter than me. I wonder what percentage of possessions they score on, as opposed to what their shooting percentages are. That should be added to the Kim Palm algorithm. What percentage of possessions do they score on, as opposed to what their pure percentages are? That's an interesting one, because you miss as many threes as you want, you go get the rebound. That's what Trevor Booker was for when I was playing. I'd shoot as many as I could, shoot as many as my arms found. Then Trevor, if I missed him, Trevor would go get him. Raymond Sykes would go get him.
Tyler, where do you stand on Alabama?
You know where I stand on Alabama. I'm a big Bama fan. I think they have the potential to win it all. There's more ways to winning than just shooting good from the 3-point line, and they have the athletes and they have the rebounding, and defensively, I think they have the athleticism to shut teams down. So, I believe in Alabama. I'm not too concerned with that.
Against Houston, they had 20 offensive rebounds. 20.
That's a lot of rebounds.
Shoot them wherever the hell you want to shoot them. And they have the number one 2-point percentage in the country. Yeah. A lot of that has to do with, we'll just shoot over the top and we'll let Big Moose go get it.
Yeah, they space it out. And like you got to. The one thing you got to do is you got to chase their shooters.
Muhammad, I said Musa Diabate. I said Musa Diabate, Muhammad Diabate. Different Diabates there. So let me make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, is he on the Hornets now? Is that where you're getting confused?
Yeah, he is. He's with the Hornets. That's why I messed that up.
Tough, man. Tough. You get these names that sound similar. T.O. is not going to be able to keep track of it.
Nope. Tough day.
Mackenzie and Taco. All right, let's get to toast of the night and let's get out of here. It's a Sunday night. We got Sunday night football coming up. Tyler, toast of the night.
Omar Ballo coming back, having a statement game. Got to respect a big man going off.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll cheers to that. T.O., what do you got? I actually don't even have a beverage here with me. It's over there. Hold on.
All right, I'm waiting. I'll wait for you.
Toast. Cheers.
Monday night football be damned. Just because I did the game, Kadir Traore. I mean, he only scored 5 points in the 2 games prior to that one. Finally, kind of his coming back out party for Louisville. They didn't really know what to expect because he broke his arm. He's been hurt for so long. That was a perfect example of what you're going to see from Kadir. Big game from him. Louisville, man, I'm telling you, they keep rolling. They keep rolling.
Yep. Cheers to Kadir Traore. And mine's going to go to
goes by Kadir. We call him Abubakar because that's what he listed at, but he goes by Kadir. Kind of a weird deal.
Yeah, it's his nickname. Kadir is his nickname.
Yeah.
My toast tonight is going to go to Aiden Mahaney because he is a guy that has really gone through it, right? It's not been an easy matriculation for him to UConn and against their biggest rival in a game where they kind of played like crap for a while. He comes out and has 15 points, a huge second half, and makes plays that won that game for him, right? If Aiden Mahaney doesn't play, UConn doesn't win that game. So toast Aiden Mahaney, UConn's 87-84 win over Providence. Listen, guys, this has been fun. The Sunday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. For Tyler Hansbrough, for Terrence Oglesby, for our producer, Dagan Hughes, my name is Rob Dauster. We'll see you guys again on, I believe, Tuesday night.